Want to get creeped out? This is a week of all Three Kings ritual stories. This is a story about another person who did the ritual. If you don't know what the Three Kings ritual is, it's a way to see the shadow side. And if you don't know what the shadow side is, it's the spiritual realm. It's where there's entities, spirits, maybe demons, maybe ghosts, ghouls, I don't know. But it's the other side, essentially. Something that we should be brushing up against all the time. You know, when you see something out of the corner of your eye and you think, I know I didn't imagine that, that would be the shadow side. Also, how adorable is my shirt from New Blood Universe? It's Mothman in drag. Stop. For storytelling purposes, we will name these people Asher and Joni. To preface this story, Asher had a sister named Ella who passed away a few years ago. Anyways, he hears about the Three Kings ritual and is interested in trying it. He's interested in the paranormal and always has been, especially since his sister passed away. His loved one is his cousin Joni, who is also very close with Ella, and she's also really interested in the occult and in the paranormal. Asher and Joni carefully place the chairs, the mirrors, the fan, bucket of water in his basement of his small house. They make sure everything is perfectly set up, and then at about 11:30 p.m. they go to bed. Asher places his power object under his pillow, which is a graduation ring that his parents had gifted to Ella before she passed away. At 3:30, Asher's alarm goes off. He walks into the hallway where Joni has also just walked into. She heads towards the living room and he opens the door and heads down into the basement. Asher has his candle lit. He's got his power object in his other hand and he is seated in his throne by 3:33 a.m. Everything seems to have gone off without a hitch. He's sitting there for what feels like an eternity when he starts to hear whispers and voices that are almost echoing in the basement. He said it felt like he was in some kind of endless cave. He felt like the darkness was just endless. He almost felt like he was no longer in his house. From the right mirror, Asher starts to hear negative things being said to him from a voice that sounds very scary and eerie and aggressive. The voice starts saying things like,
"You're your parents' least favorite. You're never going to amount to anything. Your whole family knows how dumb you are. You're the most dumb out of all of them. Not a single brain cell in that skull. Everyone wishes it was you that passed away and not Ella. It should have been you. Everyone thinks it."
The voice said something very similar to what I just said, but I couldn't say the exact thing here on social media, but you get the gist. The voice then starts to bring up times when Asher had had fights with his sister or let her down. It brings up a time when he had told her that he was gonna hang out with her and then ditched her, and just all of these little things that still plague him, especially after she passed away. Asher's anxiety was overpowering him. His heart was beating so fast. He had tears flowing down his cheeks. He felt so upset, like on the brink of an anxiety attack. He started to feel the lowest he's ever felt, and like this voice that was whispering these things to him, like those things were all true, and he didn't really realize at the time that these were all things that he had already thought about himself or already worried about. These were things that were on the back of his mind already. From the right mirror, he then suddenly hears a female voice, and he's not sure that it's his sister's voice, especially because everything sounds so echoed, but he does for sure know that it's a female voice and feels like it's a comforting voice. The voice says,
"Don't listen, you know the truth."
Then goes,
"The little red truck,"
which Asher is very confused about. He's not sure what that means. Then the voice goes, "Prom," and he thinks about his sister's first prom that she got invited to. She got invited to prom by this guy named Alex. Asher was there with a different girl, and Asher witnesses this dude, Alex, making out with this other girl that's not his sister while Ella is at a table with her friends and she's bawling and looks so visibly upset. Asher winds up going up to this guy Alex and punching him square in the face. We don't support violence here, but hey, clearly he was gonna be there for his sister, and he chose violence. The voice then goes,
"Moving day."
And he's not sure what it means at first, but this memory pops into his mind of when his sister Ella moved out of their parents' house. All of their other siblings had really intense, good jobs like doctor, lawyer, dentist, and Asher worked in construction. His boss was probably the biggest asshole out of any of his siblings' bosses, but he wound up begging his boss for the day off to help his sister move because his siblings couldn't or wouldn't take the day off, and his father had Parkinson's and wouldn't be able to help her move the heavy objects. Asher doesn't go into exactly what else this female voice said to him. He felt like it was almost cringy, but to him it wasn't. But basically, this female voice started telling him to follow his dreams, that he's smarter than he thinks he is. And she's telling him, go back to school. I know you want to. The creepy voice on the right has continued this entire time to say terrible things to Asher and to tell him how terrible of a person he is, how nobody loves him, how it should have been him that passed away. But without even thinking, Asher was able to completely drown it out and just listen to this female voice that was comforting him so much. The female voice becomes clearer and more distinct as he concentrates on it and is really giving him this sense of peace and clarity. The female voice says,
Love is all knowing.
When all of a sudden he is snapped back to reality with a splash of water hitting his face. Joni tells him that she called his name, he wasn't answering. She called his cell phone, he wasn't answering. She made her way into the basement and he was sitting there bawling. Asher and Joni stay up for the rest of the night talking about this experience. Asher tells Joni all of the things that he heard the female voice say, and he kind of mentions how the prom and the moving day, he could make those make sense, but he didn't understand the little red truck. And when he says that, Joni gets this big smile on her face. She was a little bit older than him and Ella. And she reminds Asher of this toy red truck that they had that like little kids can sit in and you kind of push it. I'm sure you guys have seen them before. And she reminds Asher that he used to push Ella in there when she was like 2 or 3 years old and she would be laughing wildly and they both thought it was just so fun. She said it was one of the cutest things she ever saw. After doing this ritual, Asher felt like he had a renewed sense of hope and determination. He reflects on the experience with a mixture of sadness and gratitude for the connection with his sister. He misses her so much, but feels like in some way she still had something to give him, even though she was no longer with them physically. He says that he is thinking of going back to school because of this experience. And he also says he occasionally feels his sister's presence and that it's like this gentle reminder of the bond that they shared and the connection that they had. He likes to think of the voice that he heard that night in moments where he's feeling self-conscious or inferior and remind himself of the words that he feels Ella would have spoken to him. This one was really nice. Still creepy though. Anyways, that's it for this one. See you next time.